Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday show of the Associated Guests. I, as always, am your host, Alfie Animus, here on the Bear in Mind channel. Today, corporate AAA slop rejected, and the media is furious, apparently. Arc Raiders continues to win by doing what the fans want. Imagine that. Imagine making something for someone and doing it for them, not for you or whatever you think is great. Now, that's all well and good for small titles, and they could do this as an indie title, but they wouldn't make anything. These guys were very clearly trying to make it big and trying to make something special that would last, and I believe that they have. But anyway, also, Good Trump, Bad Trump will visit Steven Crowder's take on some of the good stuff that President Trump is doing, and then, of course, some of the bad stuff just this past week or so that he's been doing. And then if we have time, we'll get into why the government shutdown was pointless. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it real quick with Miss Vera Dark on corporate media and very popular indie games that sell for less than what was agreed upon by them.
For years now, we've all been calling out video game journalists and how pathetic they truly are.
I agree with those air quotes.
Absolutely phenomenal games when they are not made by AAA companies. And when AAA companies put out titles that gamers don't like, they will defend them tooth and nail. And the recent Arc Raiders Eurogamer controversy truly highlights so many of the problems that we've been complaining about. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube.
And again, I'm not upset that a game doesn't have a perfect score. I'm upset when someone, look, if you're critical of games, that's one thing. But if you're someone who just doesn't like games or anything, why are you reviewing that? Like, if you don't like movies, don't review movies. If you don't like fashion, don't review fashion. If you don't like video games, then stay the fuck away from them, man. But the person who is from Eurogamer very clearly hates the gaming industry. And you see this a lot with gaming journalists for some reason. Everywhere from Alyssa Mercante, that god-awful Frosk? That freaking nutbag. But you see this all too much these days, but let's continue.
YouTube memberships. Now, over the past couple of months, we have seen some absolutely phenomenal indie and AA games release. Escape from Duck-Off, Hollow Knight Silksong.
I still need to play
Raiders.
Escape from
These are
Duck-Off.
all games that have done great, that people absolutely love, but games that, yes, the access media has either tried to ignore, like Duck-Off, they aren't reviewing it, or they have put out reviews that...
And again, Escape from Duck-Off, I'm fine with, because it's kind of a spoof on an already, like, the biggest low-key game of all. It's like Deftones when they were described by, I think, Rolling Stone back in the day as the biggest band no one's ever heard of. That's pretty much what Escape from Tarkov is. It's the biggest, or at least it was at the time, a few years back, the biggest game that no one's ever heard of because it wasn't on any of the main sites.
In some cases are definitely not the way that gamers feel, and they're getting wrecked for them, like this one with Arc Raiders. And I wanted to highlight this because it's so funny to see, first of all, how much backlash they truly are facing, but second of all, how wild of a claim it is to say a game is bad because you don't like that the developers have used something as simple as AI voice acting, even though they've paid real voice actors on this project, because you are desperate to find something to complain about. You couldn't actually complain about the gameplay itself, whether that's the guns or the items or the gameplay loop or the maps or something like that. Instead, you have to stretch to, oh, well, I kind of don't like AI, so that's going to be the reason why I give this game 2 stars out of 5 when we previously gave something like Concord 3 stars out of 5. So starting off with this post, it does have screenshots of the Eurogamer post where they had said, you know, they gave it a 2 out of 5 because it's impossible to ignore the AI for Arc Raiders to ride the wave of humans.
Sorry, just got distracted. So someone with, you know, this flag. At least it's the real Pride flag, so this person might be based. Fortnite creator code, something good takes. Care for Gaza, never mind. But no, they posted this, and then someone said a black man in feudal Japan is unrealistic. No, one, that's not why people didn't like it. It's because we were waiting for a game in feudal Japan, and you made it starring Sasuke. And two, this was DLC to Assassin's Creed 3. Probably the least popular in the franchise until, oh God, was it Rogue? I think Rogue was the one that really sucked, and that was the big bad for a long time. It was one of them. They came, I think Syndicate, Rogue, and another one came out, and I can't remember which one was the one that everyone hated. I didn't play any of them. Assassin's Creed 3 turned me off for a long time. I eventually went back and played Black Flag. But this is DLC, like what if George Washington became a tyrant king? And I'm pretty sure that's like everyone hated Assassin's Creed 3. I'm pretty sure they felt the same about this, other than the, oh, kind of a neat what if, other than them being on a floating platform. With technology that couldn't exist at the time, at least not in that region, or at all. But no, and again, feudal Japan, Assassin's Creed Shadows was bad for many reasons. One, it's the first game where you play as someone who probably existed. Two, you're going through a re-envisioned history that is slightly altered, and certain things are still happening the way that they did, but it's giving a more fantastical view. Some of them pull it off. Most of them don't, let's be honest. The first one was pretty good, but it was boring because there's nothing in between everywhere you need to go. The second one was wonderful, especially for the time period. 3 got a bad rap, but it was not that bad of a game. It was a pretty cool fake out at the beginning. 4, really good, but not really an Assassin's Creed game. And pretty much everything that's come out since, meh, hit or miss. But yes, this was not well thought of at all at the time. So just because thing exists and you haven't heard about it in a long time, it's mostly because we're tired of talking shit about it. Most people didn't like Assassin's Creed 3. It kind of turned me off from the series, mostly because they had fired the creator. I stopped watching The Simpsons for a similar reason when they fired Matt Groening, whatever his name is. But he got Futurama, and yeah, he's good. But yeah, anyway, sorry, tangent over. Meep.
Social ability all the way to the bank, while also being so contemptuous of the thing that makes us social animals in its own workflow, demonstrates a lack of artistic integrity that I find impossible to ignore, and that the AI voice generation is a black mark against its reputation, even though this is the type of game that most people are just going to skip through the cutscenes of and the dialogue of, and they just want to get into the game and play. But Legacy Killa had said this will definitely be talked about. Eurogamer just tanked Arc Raiders review score. On OpenCritic, it was at 1.94 out of 100, one of the best reviewed multiplayer games ever, and it's now fallen down to 88 out of 100, in large part thanks to Eurogamer's 4 out of 10 score, which is wild. And listen, I'm not saying Arc Raiders is the best game ever. I definitely have some criticisms of it. Don't get me wrong, but it is still very fun, and it does still deserve a high score. And luckily, most gamers at this point do not take the Access media seriously, but it's important that we still sit here and call out their bullshit, or else they're going to be allowed to run rampant in this industry and run wild in this industry. Again, the only reason why they are partially relevant still is because of their access, and that's the only thing that truly makes them the Access media at this point. Nobody's going to them for professional insights. Nobody's going to them for legitimate information or really game guides anymore. Most people are looking to YouTube or Twitch, though. It's situations like this that just prove to you that yes, you are correct in not trusting these types of individuals. Now, they recently actually posted about how over the weekend they had reached over 700,000 concurrent raiders on the surface, which is great. But we also know that in 11 days, it has sold 4 million
That's crazy.
copies, which
This, mind you, it got pretty good marketing, especially for an indie title. But this came from nowhere. This is just what seems to be like a passion product from the people that made it over at like Impact. Don't quote me on that. But this is an indie game for $40 that had, for an indie game, it had a lot of hype behind it, but really it had no no mainstream press at all. Almost none. I'll see it advertised on some of my streaming and gaming stuff. But other than that, that's literally it. Other than that, it's just been word of mouth. 4 million copies in its first 11 days. This game is going to be maybe not legendary, but it's going to be very, very big. It already is
phenomenal. Again, it's a really solid experience, but because titles like Arc Raiders and Duckov are doing so great, that means that triple
Hollow Knight Silksong
corporate slop is losing, which is so hilarious to see because these journos will sit and praise games like Concord. Again, Eurogamer gave Concord 3 out of 5 stars, but yet they're saying Arc Raiders is only a 2 out of 5. Crazy to see.
And the only thing that they really had wrong with it, that they stated they had wrong with it, was their use of AI to add different voices to read off the names of all the items in the games. And from what I understand, they made the voice actors aware of this. And I'm still looking into whether or not they still paid them for this. But this is complete insanity. For one thing that a lot of people do have a strong stance against, you drop 3 stars off of a game. I do not understand this. Like I'm okay with maybe a 3 or a 4-star rating, but 2, guess that's how you was raised.
See this happen, though they'll sit there and they will praise those games because they're coming from larger companies that they need to stick around and be alive still in order to keep their access, but they will ignore indie titles or trash them. So let's take a peek at Outer Worlds 2. Just came out a couple of days ago. All-time peak on Steam was 18,251, which is already extremely bad, but it's already down to 6,711 players in game. And yes, this is a single player title, so once people complete the main campaign, they're probably not going to come back to it unless they decide to do some sort of replay or there's DLC. Though the fact that it didn't have a great all-time peak in general is really fucking terrible. They haven't announced any sort of sales figures, probably because they're really bad. And then we have Borderlands 4. Its all-time peak was actually very good at 304,398. It has already tanked. Players in game right now, 12,762. Everybody's already forgotten about this title, but
yeah,
they actually recently admitted that the sales were soft, meaning they are not happy with anything, really, which is a big problem, though.
Wow.
It's another
This game's been out for 2 months, and while games usually do tend to drop off after the initial hype, games like this usually don't. I'm pretty sure the first 3 Borderlands, the third one was a bit more of a drop than the first 2. But wow, from 304,000 players to 13,000. That's nuts. That's less than, God, that's like 5%. Wow, that's less than 5%. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Especially for a game like Borderlands. Most of them have just endless replayability, especially if you have friends. And there hasn't been that much competition. Like Call of Duty's fallen off. Maybe Battlefield. I can see Battlefield. I've heard a lot of good things about Battlefield, but it's fallen off a little bit too. I haven't heard that much about it. But I'm sure the player numbers are still up there. But Wow. But we'll see in the next few weeks. I'll keep track of it and make sure that I report back in a few weeks and see how Ark's numbers are.
Title that was supposed to be really big for Gearbox. It was supposed to be a major win, and yeah, it clearly isn't. And
pretty sure, didn't they spend like a ridiculous amount of money? Oh my God.
The Veilguard, you already know this.
Its peak wasn't even that high.
A major disaster. 89,418 all-time peak.
I'm sure half of these numbers are people playing it like ironically to talk shit about it, which I plan on doing once it's like $20 or maybe less, depending on what my schedule looks like.
Underperformed. Everybody basically hated it. It died only a couple of weeks after release, and well, they have completely dropped this game. We're probably never going to get another Dragon Age title, which is a little bit heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking. I mean, 2 was a letdown enough. I played Origins. I played a little bit of Inquisition, but from what I understand and my own experience and other people's experience, like 2 was already a pretty big disappointment, but it was still very clearly a Dragon Age game. This one was not. It was literally people are putting their own little bullshit indie stories or fanfics, but they're getting the backing of the actual franchise. This is very bad. Like this should have been an indie title. And not a bad indie title at all. I don't disagree with these games being made. But when you use these big franchises made by these huge gaming companies and developers and such, they need to sell what you put into them. You can't spend this much money on something that you hope might catch, might catch hold of the zeitgeist at some point. No, you have to. If you put that much money in, you want to make money back. Gaming is investments. That's all it is. And you want to get your investment back. That's why all these indie games are doing so well, because they're being made by themselves for gamers. And they're people are just loving them. Like she said, Hollow Knight, and then now Arc Raiders.
Though, let's look.
Those are the 2 big ones for this year
that have launched over the past couple of months. Hollow Knight Silksong game, everybody was extremely excited for. 587,150 all-time peak, and this actually broke storefronts because there were so many people trying to buy it upfront initially. And yeah, it's down to 28,148 players. But keep in mind, when we're talking about indie versus AAA games have budgets of like 100, 200, 300 million dollars versus something like Silksong, which we don't know this full number, but it was estimated to be about 20 to 25 million.
Yes, I'm aware this is also at 5%.
High end, because the main team of developers was only 3 guys. Yes, they did outsource for a bunch of different things. They had to get music made and things like that.
And the reason I'm not making a big deal about this one being 5% of what it was is because the other game was an online multiplayer. Games like Borderlands get so much replay because it's always fun to go on with your friends or go on and play with randoms and either fuck with people or do, some kind of great team game, or I like to fuck with people. I'm not going to lie. I like going on there and just doing all the different voices and seeing what people are like, holy shit, are you Peter Griffin? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, totally, dude. Okay, like going on there and talking like different people. Okay, let me get some water. Not my best. It's still early. Normally, I gotta work on it for a little bit before I get on it. Then I'm getting old. But yeah, games like Hollow Knight, people will play it once, maybe twice at launch, and then sit on it, and then maybe revisit it after 6 months, a year. And it becomes like, for people like me, I don't play games like Hollow Knight. They're not really my cup of tea. But for games like, I play 3 Legend of Zeldas. I play the original at least once a year. I play Ocarina of Time at least every 2 years. And then Breath of the Wild, I play a lot. It's been about a year since I've picked it up. But I usually play it at least once a year. Once every 2 years all the way through. But I'll just go on and fuck around on it for whatever, at least once a year.
Though, for the most part, we are talking about very small budgets here. Arc Raiders, we don't have an exact estimate of what the budget is. I would go out on a limb and say it was probably like $30 million, judging by the quality and how many names, yes, are also in the credits, though we have no confirmation of that. It could be significantly higher than that. I don't know. Though the all-time peak only 2 days ago was 462,488, and these are all just the Steam numbers.
Someone asked, why do I think this one dropped 100,000 in a couple days? For a lot of reasons. A lot of people will buy something because it's hyped or because it's only $40, and then play it once, and it's not really their cup of tea. What have you. So that's when those numbers are, and it just happens to be when a lot of other people are doing the same. But again, we'll see how it holds out long term. But for such an indie game, my God, 462,000 players playing. That's crazy. That's where it's peaked.
Game right now is 358,071, and the lowest number that we have seen is 129,000. Besides that, these numbers have been absolutely
also on these, it's always better to go for this number. Like this number's right now. If you're in peak hours, that's one thing, but it's, what time is it? Like 7:20 Central Time. I mean, come on, who's playing Arc Raiders at 7:20 Central Time in this country? I mean, I usually am on the weekend, but what kind of normal people like to play with, Europeans and Asians? The Asians will definitely kick my ass. Some of the Europeans will. Norwegian. Anyway.
Consistent, and
PewDiePie.
Even the other drops were not quite that. I mean, 140, 145, so that has definitely held so far. Escape from Duckov, another indie.
Wow, I didn't know it sold that much.
Absolutely love. Now 301,322 all-time peak in game right now. 32.
That's what I'm saying. Today, this is how many people were on it at one time, at one point. Right now, it's only this because early.
1,380 and Megabonk.
The hell's Megabonk?
Right now, 31,000, but the all-time peak was 117,336. Imagine being BioWare, an absolutely legendary studio in the video game industry. You're supposed to be a behemoth. You just put
getting beat by
$150 into developing a game for 10 years. People are supposed to be hyped for your title, and a duck game beats you. Or a game where you're running around as a little bug beats you. Or your title is being beat by a, I believe, solo developer. Like, I would feel pretty bad about my life if I worked for a legendary studio and this was happening. And even look at the Outer Worlds 2 Obsidian we're talking about. The best they can muster is 18,251 on Steam. That is abysmal, and this is why the Access Media is putting out hit pieces on games like Arc Raiders. It's why they're refusing to review games like Megabonk and Escape from Duckov, because they know with every major indie win we see, it's one step closer to the AAA companies within the video game industry going under, because they are not creating experiences that people are sticking around for. They are not.
And this is really sad because they have a lot of the beloved franchises. Right now, it seems like Nintendo, and we'll see more as they continue on with the Nintendo Switch 2. They seem to be the only ones trying anything new and people responding to it. Or sticking to the old thing and people responding to it. The only thing they've been doing bad is they have been doing a lot of anti-consumer stuff with them suing Pal World and a lot of other indie creators and getting trademark claims and all that. But when it comes to game making, Nintendo's on point. They have a different, they have different customs in Japan, so I can not really forgive, but I can understand someone in another country who doesn't have the same as us as far as, I don't even know where I was going with that, honestly. But let's continue to see what's going on with Trump, because he has been kind of falling off lately. Yeah.
This 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging
Which it is.
The time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's
No.
not even a big deal.
This is
It
a
is.
terrible idea,
It is.
in my opinion.
It is.
Really bad Trump.
And
And heads up, MAGA, specifically Republicans broadly. Look, it always irritates me when, because I know people who are going to support Trump are going to support him overall. Of course, even though he does a few things that they didn't vote for. I've got MAGA in my family. I understand where they're coming from. Yes, some of them are retarded, but not all of them. As much as I give one particular cousin a lot of shit, he's actually really smart. But don't tell him I said that. But yeah. But this always drives me crazy when people on X especially, or even in person, I've had a few people say, "Oh, do you regret your vote now? Oh, everyone regrets it." Gavin Newsom saying that many Trump voters have messaged him personally. It's like, this guy doesn't know any Trump voters. And they've messaged him personally. Now, the only people I could have, one, I don't think that's true at all. I don't think anyone's messaged him. He might have had one message and is doing that embellishment thing that dipshits do to try to make people think that they're on their side. And it's not a bad tactic on the world stage, or at least the national stage. But I don't think this has happened. Gavin Newsom is a ridiculous liar. Right now, he's in Brazil at the climate summit. You know, the one that even Bill Gates said, maybe we should focus on other things. He's there instead of our president. And my first thought is, California's pretty fucked right now. What are you doing in another country? But then I remember the mayor didn't exactly hustle back when her city was on fire of Los Angeles, 6-8 months ago? But let's continue.
and it just doesn't seem in line with Make America Great Again. It doesn't seem in line with.
Oh, yeah, but sorry. Presidents aren't perfect people. And if you're not a sheep, if you're a sheep, you agree with everything that he does, or you disagree with everything that he does, if you're a sheep for either side. But yes, your president, no matter what party, no matter what person, is going to do things that you disagree with. At the end of the day, it's based on what we can accept. I don't agree with the stuff we're doing with China. I don't agree with Qatar and having an air base in America. And I don't agree with anything that Pam Bondi does ever, because why? But I'm not necessarily MAGA. I'll be called that and worse by hardcore leftists who are too retarded to really explain why they believe what they believe. And if you ask them questions, they'll say, it's not my job to educate you. Oh, but is it your job to ostracize me because you're too fucking lazy to tell me about your own opinions? It's because they're not your opinions. It's groupthink. And it's really sad when you see someone who has been outside the mainstream for so long act like all the people you hated growing up, or all the people who were horrible to you growing up. Yeah, a lot of my friends are, I know I've brought this person up a lot, but a lot of my friends are the awful, awful little girl with the glasses from Welcome to Derry. We all know people like this. They're fucking terrible. And I mean, as many kids have died in that show, I hope it's coming.
Put America first. So,
They're no longer that.
President Trump, look, I don't want the guy impeached nor executed, as I made very, very clear with Dave Smith and the people who were calling for his impeachment and execution.
In the
And
show,
yes, that's
by
a
the
real
way.
thing. They said execution for war crimes to be buried beneath the prison. I don't agree. I think he's been mostly, and you guys let me know, I think he's been mostly a pretty damn good president. But there are some head scratchers here.
That's your opinion, depending on your politics.
And as always, we make the references available, links in the description. If you disagree with any of my positions, please do engage in the chat. I'd love to talk with you. I would love to see someone steel man the mortgage issue.
Yeah.
And I would love to see someone steel man the
I personally can't.
the Chinese exchange student. I don't
50-year mortgages.
Any possible path to arguing how it benefits America. If we're talking about make America great again, MAGA. Well, what? The first one I kind of get, because you'll still have some people who've come over from the Bernie Bro coalition and they vote exclusively in their own selfish interests. But I would say that this is a mistake. So a proposed policy from President Trump, a $2,000 payment to lower middle income Americans generated from tariff revenue.
Over the weekend, President Trump posted a proposal on Truth Social suggesting Americans could receive payments of up to $2,000 from the administration's tariffs. He addressed this earlier today from the Oval Office.
One of the things we're going to do, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing.
Now, this one I understand.
I'll let him say and then I'll
I don't
comment.
agree with it. I understand because it's a way of drawing attention to the fact that the tariffs have generated a ton of revenue.
Yeah.
I think that's why he wants to do it. And of course, during this sort of standoff with the shutdown, it's saying, hey, I'm looking out for working class Americans. And by the way, we're able to do this because the tariffs that these elitists opposed and said would obviously irreparably damage the country. Hey, look, here's a check. I get it. This one.
I agree with all that. I do agree that right now, especially with the shutdown, even though it's over, people have suffered. And it's a good idea to write us all a check, at least the ones, hopefully I'm included. I don't make a lot of money, but you always worry anytime you get a raise. Am I in a new tax bracket? The answer to that question is no, you're still poor. But you never know. I've never had to pay in on taxes either, and then Biden was president. But yeah, I think it's a good idea, just considering the climate right now, to show that the tariffs have actually done something. Whether or not it's the intended, we don't know. Prices haven't really gone up any more than they normally would. Pretty sure gas has come down a lot. Not as much as I was hoping, but it's come down. But it is a good way to, one, show the tariffs are working, let people know, do things for the American people who have been suffering during Chuck Schumer's little government shutdown. Because yes, it is Schumer. Because they were the ones saying, why don't they reopen it? Why don't they reopen it? And then as soon as it gets reopened, when 8 Democrats side with the Republicans to stop this madness, everyone's calling for their heads. Because it was never about us. It was never about us. It was about them trying to dupe us into getting them back in power. And to finalize the ACA, which for some has given them insurance when they wouldn't otherwise have it. But for the greater majority, it's made our rates get ridiculously high. My insurance is higher than it's ever been by a lot. By a lot. The company I work for used to pay for all of it. Now they pay for most of it. But yeah, and that's not necessarily their fault. It just sucks. It really does. But I don't know, man. The more I look at things, and for those of you that know me in person, I hate agreeing with Republicans. It drives me up the fucking wall. But my people, the left, have been absolutely nuts of late, and they'll call me a party traitor. And worse. Much, much worse.
I understand. It's not conservative. It's not right-wing in any way. I hate it when the left redistributes wealth in order to buy votes. this is a hard pass for me. Anyone?
Less good, Trump. Yeah, I'm also not sure if it's enough money to do that and to pay down some of the deficit, or at least a significant portion of the deficit.
Right.
To, justify it.
I think everything that we should be doing right now is actually fixing the problems instead of just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. Like you said, this is for votes. I don't like doing that. And I also think you have to get serious about the debt and the deficit. You've got to get serious about that and stop doing that, because they did the exact same thing. You remember when they were talking about doing a Doge kind of dividend?
Yeah.
I think that's what they called it.
Remember that, yeah.
Maybe we'll send a Doge dividend. And everyone's like, what? No, we don't want, it's supposed to cut spending.
I would love that idea if we didn't have $40 trillion in debt.
Yes.
Or whatever it is. I might be.
It's 37, 38 right now.
Pretty close.
If it wasn't that, if it was, maybe a couple trillion, maybe I'd be okay with it. But
There was a Price is Right rule, so you went over. So Gerald wins this one.
Okay.
As much as it pains me. It also brings me to, by the way, next Monday will be another Change My Mind on ending SNAP. And this has nothing to do with the shutdown. I just think we should end it. I think it's a failed program.
Yep.
And I had people sit down, and this goes back to inviting Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens on, where people go, well, if we didn't give so much money to Israel, then we could afford it. I go, well, first off, that's incorrect.
Yeah, that's retarded. We do give a lot of money to Israel, and I don't agree with that. I think some assistance, or at least training, collaborating as far as tech, maybe, but we give way too much money to Israel. But even as much money as we give them, it's nowhere near how much is put into SNAP. And he'll probably bring this up, but the amount of money that we just spend on sugary drinks through SNAP is, reading that made me autistic. Anyways.
Okay, $3 to $4 billion. Cut it to Israel. $3 to $4 billion in aid, right? Military aid and foreign aid. Cut it to Israel. Cut it to all those countries. Stop funding all sides of the war in that cesspool of a region. Okay, I agree with you, but SNAP is anywhere from $100 to $130 billion a year. $9 billion alone spent on sugary drinks. So three times the amount that we send to Israel annually is spent on Coca-Cola and Fanta.
I didn't know that. I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it was more. I didn't know it was 3 times more than we send to Israel. That's crazy.
SNAP each year.
Yeah.
And so if all of this infighting is going to be about that funding, I think we remove that and go, okay, great, remove it, fine. Done. That should be enough, done. Let's deal with the real problem, though, as far as our spending. Let's deal with the real problem as far as the entitlements in this country.
I don't agree with ending SNAP. I do agree with it should be like, what's it, WIC? Where you only spend it on eggs, raw meat, basically raw goods like milk, eggs, fruit, vegetables, meat, maybe juice, if it's 100% juice. Other than that, no. Just no. But I'll leave that up to y'all as well. But that's just what I think. I'm not in charge of anything.
And I think a lot of this has been a distraction. Next policy, because there's not a whole lot more to say about that. You either support giving away people's money to someone else or you don't.
Oh, and water, of course.
The proposal of 50-year mortgages. So government-sponsored enterprise, you've heard the term GSE, that's what it means. Government-sponsored enterprises like Freddie Mac would support 50-year mortgages to purchase single-family homes. This has been floated by President Trump and just seems like a terrible idea.
This 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean,
it is.
You go from
it's a huge deal.
Years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30 that some people had a 40.
Yes, you pay less, but it's basically, and he's probably going to say this, not Trump, Crowder. It's giving more money to the bank. The banks make so much more in interest in 30 and now 50-year mortgage plans than they do in 15-year, or just from other rich people who can just buy their houses outright. Where they make nothing.
And then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit.
Yeah, so the current max that...
And what we save will not be anywhere near. Because the difference between a 15 and a 30-year mortgage is not half. you don't pay half. You pay, I don't even think you pay half of half. Like, you don't even pay a quarter less. You're still paying quite a bit, and you're losing in the deal. It's like paying off credit cards when you have them maxed out.
At least that I'm aware of, 30-year mortgages. And I'll also say this is something where it shows how Donald Trump sometimes has a blind spot. I think he was under the impression that this was going to be a largely friendly interview. And so he didn't prepare the same way that he would when he's ready to.
And I will hand it to, what's that, Ingram? I don't hate, I very strongly dislike Laura Ingram. She's obnoxious. The only thing that I've really agreed with her on, and I don't like her attitude, she's very, I don't know. She's got the same like arrogance and stern and Karenness that you really only see from Rachel. Oh God, the lady that looks like Paul Feig from MSNBC.
Deal with opposition. Just, it could be, well, you could go from 40 to 50. Well, it's 30. 20-year difference. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Rachel from MSNBC.
I understand how this seems nice, and this is the problem with
Maddow, Rachel
it's
Maddow,
not tied to some kind of, deeply rooted principle. Now, it doesn't mean that you just cling to your principles and say, hey, like libertarians, let's legalize all drugs and have open borders and war shouldn't exist. Okay, cool. We also have to have a system of government, and we have to have a form of governance that is appropriate, that's in line with the Constitution, also serves the interests of the American people, above all else, above any other people, to be clear. But this kind of ties into a $2,000 check, just pandering for votes. So people go, well, that's great. It'll make it more affordable. First off, not really. And I'll offer a solution, by the way, that may help a little bit more. So here's how it won't really help. You just have a slightly lower monthly payment. Right? You'd build equity a whole lot slower, and you'd end up paying a whole lot more over time. One could argue that this is really sort of a kickback to the big banks because they would love for you to pay these rates. They would love for you to continue to be enslaved into debt. So let me give you an example, like a $400,000 home with, let's say, 10% down at 6.25% financing. Just giving you a general, these numbers you can find out there. So a 30-year mortgage, your monthly payment would be about $2,200. So the total cost of your home with interest would be about $798,000, call it $800,000. A 50-year mortgage, you'd be paying about $250 less per month, about $1,960. But the total cost of the home with that interest would be $1.18 million, $380,000 more. And I want to be clear.
See, that's nuts.
About something. A lot of people think that real estate is the best investment there is. They go, well, you always make money. Well, first off, that's not true. It's better to invest if you can in many scenarios than rent. Sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mortgage is better than rent, unless you're in what are they called, money pits? The kind of house where it's falling apart, that was poorly put together or has been poorly maintained over the years. Yeah. Buying, like having a mortgage is much, much better than rent. But that's about it.
But if you're paying this kind of an interest rate, you sort of lose that. You're just...
Yeah, and also that, like it's like I had a 30-year mortgage when I had my house. I ended up selling for multiple reasons just before COVID. My God. I did it for a good reason, and it really helped some people out. But God, I wish I hadn't. Like, I given this opportunity to do it again, I would still do everything the same. But just really, 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 in the long run,
you're not peeing the money away, but your house may not appreciate to the cost that you're paying, and you're not getting that equity.
It's not appreciating.
Yeah, it's a policy that would encourage financial irresponsibility on behalf of many Americans. And let me tell you something. You know what would really help? The numbers that we know anywhere, I've seen them as low as 30, 35 million illegal aliens. I've seen it as high as 55. Let's call it 40-something million illegal aliens in this country. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Guess what? That would free up a lot of homes right now. So right now what you're talking about doing is we have a housing
That
crisis.
is technically
Let's just
true.
artificially, effectively increase demand. Well, no. We either need to increase supply, either we need to build more homes, or we need more homes to be available. Well, you could free up a lot of homes if you no longer have people who are competing, illegal aliens, by the way, who often work off the books and have more disposable income because they don't.
Funny that, though. I agree and disagree with that statement. I agree because it sounds good. And in some cities, especially the sanctuary cities and states, the government is paying to keep some of these people in fancy hotels and even housing. In those cases, I completely agree. Completely agree. We're wasting so much money housing people in places where, during this housing crisis, could be used for actual American citizens. But at the same time, I know a lot of people who are here. I have known a lot of people who are here illegally. They don't live in situations where they own a home or are the primary renters. They live with family. Some of the family who are here illegally, but there's usually staying with someone who is here legally, at least on a green card, and renting or owning property. So other than clearing out their house, you're not going to really do anything. That's not really going to do what you think it is. Now, in the situations, again, where they are putting them in very, very high-quality hotels and housing, or housing at all, in those areas, it's true. But again, it's not going to have the effect broadly that you think it will.
Have to pay taxes. That would give a lot of Americans more access to these homes. How about that? It's not just in the left will say they just try and other people and they just try and demonize one group of people. No. They shouldn't be here, period. So I don't need to demonize them. They are here illegally. But in this case, there is a direct correlation. And you know where you really saw it? Used cars during COVID.
Yeah, 100%. You can see the same kind of thing with education. When the government steps in and essentially does something they think will try to help, it gets priced in. It's going to get priced in homes too. All of a sudden it's like, oh, well, people are going to save a little bit of money. Maybe they can afford a little bit more home. My price is going to go up a little bit because demand is going to go up. So I don't think this solves any of the problem. It doesn't sound like a good idea for anybody, and paying almost 100% more interest over the life of a loan, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it helps with the rate of interest.
No, it doesn't, and it'll probably increase the price of homes because you'll have a lot of people now going, well, I can afford that monthly.
Now.
So now more people go out and buy a home that if it's close, if you're cutting it close, that means you can't afford it. And I will say, we can maybe roll that clip, Ben Shapiro's quote now, and it could be taken out of context, this idea that, well, if you can't afford to live in New York, then you really should leave New York. I understand the point he's making. It is very tone deaf.
It really is.
It is very tone deaf. It's very tone deaf. I say you should leave New York because it's a communist hellhole. Okay, and I think
it's no different than, I don't know if Rob Reiner actually said this, but when South Park said that, he said, when I want to relax, I just go to my summer home in whatever country. I can't afford that. Your summer home in Mexico then. Like, rich people, like, while Rob Reiner probably didn't actually say that, he said similar things. And a lot of rich people say similar things. Because I don't know why they assume that they're regular people when they're anything but.
The people have voted for that. Enough people have voted for it where it's beyond repair. But this idea that it's incumbent upon you to simply move to a new municipality when you're facing the result of policy that has led to the cost of living problems. No, it is incumbent upon the people who represent the American people to be more responsible with policy. And whether you're looking at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, awful. Whether you're looking at Obamacare, which we'll get to, awful. Or a 50-year mortgage, it is a bad policy. It will incentivize bad decisions. And the people who would be most happy about this would be big banks. And the too big to fail firms, the BlackRocks, the State Streets, the Vanguards, who want to purchase up homes so that they can sell them to you or rent them to you. These people are the ones who are holding all the leverage. This is a terrible idea.
They really are.
In my opinion.
And it should be against the law for large companies to own houses like this. The only exemption I could say is if they buy them for people who work for them, like in oil fields or military or whatever. Situations like that for you to live in a small community or whatever. But at the same time, I don't like that either. Unless there are things in place to where you can't just outright fire them for doing anything but breaking the law or purposefully causing any kind of destruction or mayhem.
That's a really bad Trump.
And it just doesn't seem in line with Make America Great Again. It doesn't seem in line with Put America First. And these days,
Completely
the younger
agree.
generation
Completely agree.
absolutely does have it hardest when looking to purchase a home and get a good rate. Let's get to the Chinese.
Oh, boy.
Chinese mortgages?
Can I make one clarification about the Chinese? These are not foreign exchange students. These are just like full-time, visa students coming
Sorry,
over here.
you're right.
We're not exchanging anything. There's
All
less
right,
than 1,000.
admonish me.
Not me.
Admonish me. I deserve it.
Admonish.
I use the term because that's how
know,
people
I
might
thought
know.
about
But
it
you're
too.
right. There are only about 1,000 American students studying in China.
Yeah.
And
Hold on a second. Kyle Kalinske may have posted something retarded. Let's see.
And advocate for the left can't compromise on anything. Whatever happened to reaching across the aisle? You guys get more money for roads, and we get to instate the death penalty for juvenile misdemeanor. Nowadays, people hate me just
What?
for the way I think. Does that seem right to you? Honestly, I'm not even a political person. I'm not. I like to make Sora 2 videos, send tweets on X, and advocate for human hunting. What's political about that? The left can't compromise on
Okay.
anything. Whatever happened to reaching across the aisle? You guys get more money for roads, and we get to instate the death penalty for juvenile misdemeanor.
Someone's going to have to tell me who's doing that because I don't know who's doing that.
Nowadays, people hate me just for the way I think. Does that seem right to you? Honestly, I'm not even a political person. I'm not.
I don't see how that's contradictory. People have beliefs, and some of them just happen to believe things, whether they're political or not. I mean, you might think it's silly, but
I like to make Sora 2 videos, send tweets on X, and advocate for human hunting. What's political about that? The left
who's making videos on human hunting? Unless you're talking about the ICE videos? I don't know. This is oversimplified, but I can definitely see why someone like Kyle Kalinske would be a fan of this because this guy clearly has nothing going on behind his eyes, and Kyle Kalinske is retarded. Anyway,
the proposal from President Trump here is that we should have like 600,000 Chinese studying here at our universities. And here's something that I don't know who is in President Trump's ear. And I know that we've never had President Trump on the show. And I know that, I know, by the way, some of the grievances from people like Tucker Carlson or people like Candace Owens are correct. There's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on. These are bad ideas. So 600,000 Chinese students here. Can anyone tell me how that is good for America? Because if we're talking about...
okay. So Gavin Newsom signed an MOU with Brazilian governor of Pará to strengthen cooperation of wildlife prevention and response. I don't know why he's signing this. Just a dipshit overstepping governor with another dipshit overstepping governor. We're identifying areas of risk, enhancing forest monitoring, and sharing research and expertise for emergency response. You don't have any of those. The California wildfires show that. And yes, you can't control acts of nature, but you can help prevent them. You can help get people ready for them. And the fact that you do not make fire breaks, you don't clean up any of the, not shrubs, but you don't spend any time clearing these things. And all to spite Trump because he recommended it to you and you refused to do it. Stop making me defend these people. Gavin Newsom shouldn't be here. He should actually be doing things in his home state. I don't understand this. I don't understand why people think he's anything but a dipshit loser who's failed his way to the top, like Kamala Harris and a lot of California politicians.
Work visas. I do understand there's a scenario where it's appropriate. For example, someone like an Elon Musk. If there's someone who is hyperly skilled, who is going to be a player on the world stage, well, you want them playing for Team United States. I understand.
Say Team America.
Certainly in film, this happens a lot. If you need Tom Hardy, you need Pierce Brosnan, you need to bring him in. Especially if there's a series here. I get that. But students, you are now training up the generation, the younger generation of a foreign adversary so that they will be competitive with you in the workplace. It doesn't make sense at this stage in the development of a human being. We shouldn't be training and making our enemies stronger than they would be without this policy. And here is President Trump giving this interview with Laura Ingraham. And everything he says, I just don't think he's aware that he's communicating it in the opposite way that people are hearing it.
You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have. China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities.
I hate that I agree with Laura Ingraham on this.
Cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy. You would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Great!
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans
You would have the
of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically black colleges and universities would all be out of business.
Why?
You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
Screw the French too.
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where they put 25% taxes on American products. Half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country destroy our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose any.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else, and MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
Want to bet? We want to see our country thrive, but you still have failed to make the case as to why we would thrive, why we would be better off with more communist students coming over here.
Well, because the historically black colleges and universities would fail if they didn't have Chinese students.
2%.
Why'd you say Chinese?
The black colleges need the Chinese students.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Fine, I guess.
Blackanese.
Can anyone make the case? Because he didn't make it just there. And he even insisted that Ivy League universities love this idea, citing the recently renamed Rail University and their new fight song. We've been working on the railroad.
Oh, my God.
I'm working.
And most upset, of course,
what the fuck?
Captain Morgan here. Don't even get us started on Notre Dame.
What the fuck?
The Fighting Irish.
They can pronounce the R's.
We fight wrong time. Hey.
Oh,
Jesus.
Pass it to my tight end.
Yeah, you were full. Not only don't deserve this. And,
skipping past a little bit of that.
They're a national security threat. So let me give you a few examples here. Check the references linked in the description. At U of M, you had many instances of students trying to smuggle in crop fungus. That doesn't seem like it has a place in the science lab. Again, at U of M, you had that student charged for illegally voting, and his vote still counted. And again, at U of M, 5 students were charged with spy activities at Camp Grayling. Again, most of these are the Chinese. Chicago, Chinese electrical
And then who's that
student,
one person who worked for Biden who was actually banging a Chinese spy?
Transferred sensitive tech to the PLA. And then, of course, you have Swalwell's favorite, Fang Fang, the one he was not banging, just to be clear, not having sex with a Chinese spy, Eric Swalwell. There's no record of it. There's no
Eric Swalwell.
Eric Swalwell has not slept with Chinese spies and still seems to hold office. I just want to be very, very clear. I think we're covered by my half-Asian lawyer. Remember, Fang Fang started her spying career while enrolled at Cal State East Bay. So, like, there's a long-standing history of the Chinese taking advantage of our system and sending spies over here. Not to mention this. Let me ask you this. Do you think that having more Chinese students coming here, do you think that that lowers tuition costs? Or do you think it inflates tuition costs? Do you think that it provides more opportunities for American students to study? Or do you think they take those spots? This policy is basically, hey, we're going to be educating our primary geopolitical rival, basically people from a communist nation, so that we'll have to compete with them in the tech and workspace later on. And the reason for it is...
Go. None. It doesn't make any sense. Listen, there's an AI race right now that is absolutely imperative for the United States to win. It is national security implications. Matt, that's why you saw Sam Altman, Elon Musk, all these guys, Jeff Bezos, going and talking and saying, hey, the government has to do something. Why would we take the one country that can beat us in this race and educate their kids so that they have a better chance? Why would we do that? Lane made a great point. He's like, how many students do you think we would have been comfortable letting in during the Cold War from Russia?
Right.
How many?
Right.
Probably not a lot. What the hell are we doing? And these are new every single year. This is not a total number. I think this is 300,000 over 2 years of new students.
Yeah.
It's not like there's just 600,000.
It's more than what's like currently enrolled, I believe.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't think that the premise that half of America's colleges and universities would go out of business when they're spending tons of money on rejection letters every year.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't get any.
I also, by the way, don't care. I guess I would only support it if this was all just a ploy and we were educating the Chinese students wrong.
Maybe that's a
like,
good,
hey, welcome
yes.
to this
There you
new
go.
engineering class. I present your professor, Terrence Howard.
Okay, fine. Maybe if there is a little subterfuge going on. I don't know.
He's more like a quantum physics theory guy.
2 times 2 is 5. I learn America. 2 times 2 is 5. Crying black man, say. So not great,
crying?
Trump. Let's rate that one. That's not so great, Donald.
Yeah, definitely not great.
Yeah, less good Trump. But here's one that's good. Here's one that is good. A new order says that visas can be denied for certain health conditions. By the way, any way you can deny visas, I'm on board with that. The health conditions can include obesity, diabetes, mental health. The feminist trifecta. My verdict here is good Trump. That's good Trump. That one's pretty base. Good for him.
I don't have a good
We don't have a good Trump? Come on.
For
Wait, hold
certain
on,
health
what?
conditions. By the way, any way you can rate that one. That's not so great, Donald Trump.
Not less good.
Yeah, less good Trump. But here's one that's good. Here's one that is good. A new order says that visas can be denied for certain health conditions. By the way, any way you can deny visas, I'm on board with that. The health conditions can include obesity, diabetes, mental health. The feminist trifecta.
Okay.
My verdict here is good Trump. That's good Trump. That one's pretty base. Good for him.
I don't have a good
We don't have a good Trump? Come on.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
That works.
Thank you very much.
That works. That's a good thing. Hey, why should we be bringing in anyone who's fat, diabetic, and mentally unwell?
unstable?
Well, I don't know about the fat thing, but definitely the mentally unstable. That's,
Well, again, the
fat thing seems personal.
they're gross.
Ew.
No, but we'll get to Obamacare. They're a burden on the healthcare system. So you're bringing in people who will be taking advantage
See,
of our
I
social
think
services.
this from the mind state of like, oh, we're not giving health care to people who don't live here, right?
Right,
Or
yeah,
from
exactly.
here, we're not giving that. Oh,
You're being logical.
that's where I mess up.
YouTube's
Okay. But no, a lot of good stuff in there. Look, even if you voted for Trump, you can admit that he did something wrong. And you should. You'll notice that a lot of people, and you see this a lot on the left, you see it quite a bit with the MAGAs, but you see it a lot on the left. They cannot renounce anything bad that happens on their side, especially if they're in a couple of particular communities. They will not, like, they will call, and again, this is anyone who is a staunch down the line Democrat or Republican. Anyone who's complete party line for everything, I don't really even consider you a person. You should be allowed to think that gay people can get married. People should be able to smoke weed. And also, people should own guns and know how to use them, especially know how to use them. I do not think you should be able to buy a gun without having certain training. I just don't. And that's just for safety. It should be an easy bar. You should be able, I mean, and I'm not even saying go in and do this. I'm saying that the government should provide probably free, if not ridiculously cheap, gun training when you purchase a firearm. There should be levels: handgun, rifle, assault rifle, sniper rifle. But yes, you can believe things from both sides. It's not an inherent contradiction, unless it is. But believe what you want to believe. But if you can't point out when your side's fucking up, then why are you in the conversation at all? It's not a conversation. It's just you throwing platitudes at the other side that you don't even care about. You just want applause and gravitas in front of people who already believe what you think. But if you actually want to have a conversation, which I do believe that Crowder does want that, and I think that if you presented a good enough argument, you could maybe change his mind on some things. But if you aren't even willing to try, but you're willing to ostracize people and just scrape them off of society because you're too lazy or stupid to present why you believe in something and why you think it's the right way to go, then you need to take yourself out of the conversation, educate yourself on why you believe what you believe, instead of just, oh, my friends believe this, so I do too because I like them and I want them to like me. I know people on both sides that do this. You have no place in the conversation. And unfortunately, that's a good percentage of most people in the political discourse of modern day America. But yeah, that's all I've got for today, guys. I appreciate you for stopping by. This has more been something that I wanted to watch, that I saw the headlines for. And I always very much appreciate when someone tears into their own side, but they do it constructively. I'm not saying tear into anything like, oh, fuck Trump or fuck Biden or fuck Obama or fuck Bush. That's not constructive. Or, oh, they did a thing that I don't like. Anyone who does that are the same people who believe, like pissed off former Christians who become atheists because they prayed for things and they didn't get the things. You're a retard, and that's not what prayer's about. I'm not even a staunch Christian, and I know that. It's also the same, people who don't believe in, I can't think of anything that the other side believes in off the top of my head, because religion's one thing. People treat politics like a religion, and they will ostracize their own candidates for not giving all their campaign promises. I will say this. Trump has stuck to as many of his campaign promises as he's been allowed to, and he's done a lot of stupid shit. But I'll give him that. He has stuck to his campaign promises, and people who said they didn't vote for this, or people who say, you didn't vote for this, you're an idiot. People who voted and voted for him got a lot of what they voted for. Most of it. They also got shit like you saw today. So that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. We will see you again tomorrow morning for the Thursday show. And then if D&D gets canceled on Friday, I'll more than likely jump on. But hopefully it doesn't get canceled this week. But you guys, I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. And we will see you all in the morning.